Alright, I've been looking forward to this ranking video a lot. This is all day one characters from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes ranked. I've changed up my tier list format, got the original banner in the background. Green is now S tier, because I realized I think I like green the most as far as the lightsaber. It's Yoda, Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi Knight Luke, and C tier is now yellow because, that just kind of fits a C tier for lightsaber colors. But yeah, I've really been looking forward to this. I'm going to go through them all alphabetically, and it is 65 characters, so I'm going to try to say less about each one unless they're very good. And if you enjoy the video, please consider subscribing. And the first original character we're going over is Aayla Secura. Low B tier for her. She's a Jedi support, stuns on the basic. She's pretty useful in both a Jedi Master Kenobi team or Jedi Master Luke team if you're stretched thin. She's pretty good in Conquest right now because she is a support. The stun on the basic is really what increases her viability, so I give her low B tier, low mid B tier. Next we got Admiral Akbar, and he is mid C tier, mainly because he's got a good capital ship, although he's not as high as he would be if it were still the best Rebel capital ship. With Profundity here, he is falling a little bit out of use in ships. He also has an Omicron, so that's decent, but otherwise he's not a very good land character at all. Next up, we got Ahsoka Tano, OG Ahsoka, and she is high A tier for me. She's just an awesome character, and she really helps that Jedi Master Kenobi team run with her constant assists, constant dispels. She's awesome with Padme as well, grants protection up, healing, and she's got a great ship for that Galactic Republic fleet, which is definitely an A tier or S tier ship. But yeah, definitely A tier for Aayla, or Ahsoka. Next up, we got Asajj Ventress, and Asajj is bottom of B tier. To me, she's borderline C tier. It really could go either way on that. She goes with Night Sisters, which are not as good a team right now, and even when she stacks her offense, she doesn't hit that hard. For example, in Conquest right now, she's a support, and even with Zealous Ambition, I'm still not impressed with her damage. But she's a decent character, Mass Dispel, still on the basic, so she has some good stuff. And really her Omicron is what pushes her up higher to B tier. Next up we got Barriss, and Barriss is high B tier because of her plug and play viability. Basically her job is just to sit there and let everyone get hit and critically hit and heal them up. Her basic hits like a wet noodle, even with Zealous Ambition not doing much. She can heal the team, but that doesn't come into play as often. She's just great to sit there, basically, with any characters in case they need to get healed. So, B tier for her, high B tier. Next up, we got Biggs Darklighter, and he sadly is low C tier, because he's not good in ground. He has a great ship, but it doesn't go with Profundity, so he is falling a little bit. Still a great ship. One of the best original ships in the game, just because of that protection recovery. Still key if you don't have Profundity encountering the attacker Executor lineup. So he is a good ship, which gets him up to C tier. And he also has a kind of overpowered mechanic on ground, which sometimes comes into play. He gets 100% turn meter when critically hit. So that's worth something to me, just saying. Next up, we got Boba Fett, and Boba Fett is mid A tier actually. I think his ship props him up from a B tier character to an A tier character because it's definitely one of the finishers on the Executor team with that boing, just hitting for an AoE under protection is kind of the killing blow a lot of times when I'm using Executor or going against Executor. But he's a good character as well. AoE. Ability block and 2-turn ability block on primary target. That rocket is pretty strong, and he comes back to life after he's killed one, so he merits mid A tier for me. Next up, we got Cad Bane. Cad Bane is nothing other than his ship and a Hut Cartel lead right now for people that don't have good Hut Cartel in the Galactic Challenges. He's actually been pretty clutch for that, but I can't give him much higher than this, and he only gets this high because Xanadu Blood is an awesome ship and really makes that Executor lineup one of the best in the game. Next up, Clone Sergeant. He is D tier. He escaped F tier because he has a decent ship, but he's not used anywhere at any time right now on land. People have to relic him for Jedi Master Kenobi, but they wish they didn't have to. Now we got our first F tier character, and the F tier is going to be pretty packed. We got Clone Wars Chewie, which was one of the very first characters you get as a beginning player. Even up until the past couple of years, he was still one of the first characters you get. but he doesn't really do much at all, so he gets F tier. I put him top of F tier because he does have Galactic Republic tag. You can make something work with Padme, but you really want to go with any other option available to you. Count Dooku, low A tier. You know, hard for me. He could be high B tier, but I like what he has to offer. His stunning, his counterattacks constantly, ability block, stun on the basic. Riposte, I think he's the original Riposte character, stealth. And I was a day one character for a few months, and one of the biggest reasons I quit after a few months was Count Dooku. He was so annoying. The attack speeds were so slow. He just kind of like tip-tap all the way over to your team, poke you, stun you. You go all the way back, and then come back slowly, tip-tap again, poke you again, and ability block you or something. And it was just the most frustrating thing in the world. So low A tier for him. Next up, we got Cup, everyone's favorite meme character, and he's top of F tier because, you know, he's got stun on the basic, he has the Galactic Republic tag, so definitely not the worst character in the world, but definitely the kind of the biggest joke of a character, because it's like, who is this? He doesn't look like anyone from the Clone Wars show, even the guy with the police, or at least I haven't seen him look like that. But yeah, high F tier for Cup. Next up, we got Darth Maul, and Darth Maul is high B tier. He's a decent leader on the 3v3 or 5v5, just granting stealth. He grants a lot of turn meter, which can make some special counters work. He's part of a counter where Darth Vader can tech at Lord Vader right now, as long as you have the cooldown reduction datacron and the right circumstances line up. He's also got a ship, which is okay, so you can't justify more than high B tier, and honestly, right now that feels a little high for me as well. Next up, we got Darth Sidious. He is also boosted only because of his Omicron, and it is a Territory War Omicron, but it is decent. It boosts the team a lot. But this guy really could use a rework, in my opinion. To me, Darth Sidious is the epitome of this character. I mean, Emperor Palpatine as well, but just Darth Sidious is just very imposing and should feel that way. Right now, the most powerful version is from the sequels, which seems like it should be the weakest version of him, in my opinion. So it's a little backwards. I wish he'd get a rework besides just an Omicron, but that Omicron does put him in C tier. And now, since we're going alphabetically, we're already to the best day one character. That is Darth Vader. Darth Vader is a titan among day one characters. He is so good. He would rank even pretty high in a Journey Guide ranking, but he is just a man among boys in this list. He was originally very hard to get because he was an achievement exclusive until they added him to the Fleet Store, but you don't need to hear much about him. Merciless Massacre, one of the best early game Zetas, probably should be your first. You can just loot forever. Right now with this Datacron, he literally can loot forever. Can do massive damage even after he was nerfed. Before the nerf, he'd be like super S tier, but so much I could say about this guy, but I'll move on. Awesome day one character. Next up, we got Dacha, and Dacha, F tier. Don't have much to say about him. He's a Jawa, so if you have Scavenger with him, he's going to be throwing out thermals for getting hit, but that's about it for him. Next, we got Eoth Koth. He's got a funny description in-game. It says he's extremely effective against droids, but he is not extremely effective against anything. But he does get the higher F tier because he does have the Jedi tag and the Galactic Republic tag, so you can make stuff work with that, but he sucks. Ewok Elder. I probably ranked him too high, honestly, but he's key to the Ewok team. He's key in unlocking C-3PO, and he can revive anybody, not just Ewoks, and I think that's pretty cool. Next, we got Ewok Scout, another one of the first characters you were assigned in the beginning of the game, and he is terrible. He's not even used for unlocking C-3PO, so realistically, no one should be gearing this guy up, unless he's got some kind of super Omicron or super rework or something. But I always remember when I first started playing this game, another coworker of mine played, and I would complain about having Ewok Scout and how he sucked, and my coworker would say, he's good. And I'm like, are you crazy? Anyway, moving on. Another original starting character, Farm Boy Luke. Terrible character. He gets this high just because he has the Rebel tag, and because you need him in Conquest right now. So he's not bottom F tier. He can stun, which is okay, I guess. You need him to unlock Commander Luke Skywalker, but other than that, he's pretty trash. Next up, we got First Order Stormtrooper, who falls low B tier. You know, I like First Order Stormtrooper. He goes in what I consider probably the best, like, full First Order lineup with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. He's a pretty strong tank. He takes a lot of hits. And calling people to assist on his team is pretty great, especially if that's Supreme Leader Kylo. So that's why he merits getting B tier. And next up, we got First Order TIE Pilot. And he was actually pretty good in the beginning of the game, and until he got his Omicron, he was pretty bad. But he gets his high because of his Omicron in GAC, and I really love that Omicron. It does a lot for a team without Supreme Leader Kylo. You got like plus 100 speed, a lot of extra damage, protection recovery. It's just a lot. So I really give that a premium since it's GAC. So for me, he's high B tier right now. Next up, we got another S tier character, and that is Fives. Fives, I consider an S tier character because he's very versatile and he has a great ship. It's the one I like to use on offense in a starting lineup for Negotiator. But he makes that clone team work. He makes the 501st team just a complete threat. You have to kill him first. He's got amazing armor. He's got amazing protection. And if you kill anyone else first on his team, as long as they're 501st clones, he's going to juice up that team insanely. And he also allows the clones under Shaak Ti to be an awesome raid team. So I consider that as well. I'm considering everything in this list. So S tier for me, I love Fives. Next up, we got General Veers, and he is mid A tier, surprisingly. And that's just because he makes that Imperial Trooper team work. They need him. He is the turn meter train. He allows it to happen. So without him, that's not working very much. And he's got a AoE mass assist, which is awesome for that team as well. Next up, we got Geo Soldier. And Geo Soldier is mid C tier. I mean, he's on the Geonosian team. He's one of the more flimsy ones. He's bringing down their health and protection pool. But he does good damage on that team, and he does have a good ship. Although that ship isn't very vital for any lineup right now. Unless you're using the kind of dicey malevolence counter to the profundity. But mid C tier for him. Next up, we got Grand Moff Tarkin, and I might be ranking him a little high right now, but I'm ranking him this high because I think the Executrix is going to be a much better ship going forward. It already can beat the Profundity off and on, but I think when Scythe comes out, it's going to be a near surefire thing, and it's going to be good against other fleets as well, because you're actually going to be able to get turn meter. So I foresee him being a much better capital ship leader in the future. Next we got Greedo, and Greedo is top of D tier to me. You know, he has potential if he just never stops shooting with his basic, but other than that, he's pretty garbage. His specials don't deal damage. His second one's okay. I mean, it can stun you. It basically removes turn meter and gives him a bonus turn, as long as they're close to full turn meter. Not a bonus turn, but like close, you know. But he's pretty bad. Next up, we got HK-47, and this could be higher right now, because he has fallen from grace. He's not used as much. He doesn't have the Sith tag, so in the Age of Malgus, he's not getting used. But he's still a strong character if you put him under Darth Revan. If you're doing threes, you can still get some good use out of him. He hits like a truck, and he has some underrated mechanics like preventing enemies with bonus protection from gaining turn meter, which happens quite a lot. There's a lot of bonus protection out there right now, so I rank him B tier for me. Next up, we got Hoth Rebel Scout. Scout. It's hard to tell them apart. So yeah, he's definitely mid C tier because he makes that Mon Mothma team turn meter loop work, just grants turn meter to the whole team. He can get turn meter on his special and stun, but that's all there is to him. And then his buddy, Hoth Rebel Soldier. He was not rescued from obscurity with the Rebel Fighter or rework or introduction of Mon Mothma. So he is a candidate for worst character in the game. But is he? We have yet to see. Next up, we got AG-86, another crap character, low F tier. I don't know, maybe at high relics he does some good damage, but he's just kind of like a tin can waiting to get pushed over to me, so low F tier. IG-88, I gave him mid B tier, and that might seem a little high, but it's in part because of his ship. I like his Zeta with healing immunity, or prevents target locked enemies from recovering health, I think. And he's good in a shorty team. He's one of the main damage dealers. So for 3s, I set Sortie, T3, and IG-88, and it's pretty good. So mid B tier for him. Next up, Abagandai, and he escapes F tier because he's a Galactic Republic Jedi, and he hits very hard under Ki-Adi Mundi. It's not practical to use him, in my opinion. You don't want to build him up over pretty much anyone useful, so he doesn't get out of D tier, but D tier is fair for him. He's not in F tier. Next up, we got Jawa. Jawa is another F tier character. I just don't like Jawas. Scavenger's the only good one, and I don't see myself ever gearing him up unless required to. Next up, we got Jedi Consular, and he escapes F tier because he has a ship. It's a Galactic Republic ship. It can be useful in some things. Sometimes I use it with First Order against Executor as like my last reinforcement, because he can call an assist with anyone if needed and deal some extra damage that way. In the beginning of the game, I thought he was good just because he healed and he helped me get through Galactic War and stay topped off, but he is not very good. Next up, we got Jedi Knight Anakin, another S tier character. I put him second behind Darth Vader. He's not as good as he used to be, but in some ways he is better in Grand Arena alone. Under Qui-Gon, he hits for massive damage. Last week in Grand Arena, I hit for almost 1 million on his basic. But that AoE can just wipe out teams. I'll never forget when that Qui-Gon Jinn Omi came out, and they didn't tweak it to not work against Galactic Legends, and Anakin just wiped out a whole Slipper team. That was just an awesome thing to see. And also he has an S tier ship, an awesome ship. The whole Galactic Republic fleet revolves around Anakin's ship, so that's definitely why it makes it easy call for him to be an S tier. Next up, we got Jedi Knight Guardian, who's F tier, but Jedi tag, Galactic Republic tag, tank tag, got some good tags, so she's top of F tier. You can make something work with her, and I know I've seen people do some funny stuff with her. And now Kit Fisto, another Galactic Republic Jedi. He gets boosted towards the top of F tier because of those tags, but he's pretty much useless in the game unless he gets some kind of massive rework or something. And now we got Lando Calrissian. Maybe I'm ranking him too high. Put him in D tier. He can get some good damage with the AoE. I might be biased because I had to gear him up, so he's at a higher relic level for me, but he's still pretty much a garbage character. Now we got Lobot, and he's pretty bad. Maybe he's probably worse than Ewok Scout or something, but I don't know. It's hard to differentiate all these bottom feeders for me. When I see Lobot, I just think of Urzatron. He loved Lobot, and it was kind of funny. I like to see him do meme battles with Lobot. Next up, we got Luminara and Galactic Republic Jedi, and she gets to top of the D tier because she has an Omicron now. I don't think it's that good. I'm not going to gear her up for it or apply the Omicron, but it at least separates her from the rest of this bottom pack. Now Mace Windu, and this is our final S tier character. Mace Windu is awesome after his rework. Before the rework, I'd probably put him in D tier. He was pretty bad, and it was quite a sad thing to see. But he's amazing in Territory War, but even if you don't have his Omicrons applied, he's amazing across the rest of the game. He does so much for a Galactic Republic team, especially with Jedi. Swapping turn meter, stunning, Shatterpoint is awesome, and he is crazy in Lightside TB and Geonosis because he just rips through droid battalion stacks. So S tier for him. He's also a capital ship captain, but that ship does not really get used. Next up, we got Magna Guard, and Magna Guard is mid B tier for me. He is a key cog in that Grievous machine, puts everyone under stealth right away, which makes the team way harder to deal with than it would otherwise be. And he's just a great tank. He's taunting constantly. You got to be scared of him in GOTB, because if you hit him, he's going to hit you, and then he's going to taunt. So a pretty solid tank for me, and I definitely think he deserves his spot above the rest of these B tier characters. He might even go higher. Next up, we got Mob Enforcer, and I don't know, low C tier. She can be used with Hut Cartel now, because she got a rework, so she does substantially more than the F tier characters and the D tier characters now. But I can't justify putting her much higher than this. This might be even a little high for me, but I don't know, she's something now instead of just a bottom F tier character. Speaking of bottom F tier characters, we got Night Sister Acolyte. And, you know, I just don't see any use for her. I'm not super familiar with her kit, but I know that basically no one uses her, and she's not even like the other Night Sister Initiate, which gets a little bit higher in F tier because she has some use in HSTR. I haven't seen anyone do that for a while because now there's so many better options, but the fact that there is something she has that others don't, she gets bumped up a little bit in the F tier. Next up, we got Newt Gunray. Newt Gunray is definitely an A tier character for me. I love him after his rework. Extortion is a great mechanic. He really speeds up his team. It used to be a better team. There's so many other better teams right now, so Newt isn't as viable as a leader on his own team. But he can be really annoying to deal with. He comes back once after you kill him. You can call Separatists to assist and increase cooldowns. Just a great character, very fun character, and some good plug-and-play viability as well. And now we are up to Old Ben. And Old Ben to me is low A tier. He's a solid tank. He's got great tags, Jedi and Rebel. Although he's used more with Jedi now or Star Killer. AoE, turn meter reduction, and ability block is great to me. He can taunt, and he gives his team a boost as long as they're Jedi or Rebel when he dies. So low A tier for me. I really like Old Ben. Next up, Old Daka. And Old Daka is mid A tier for me because of what she can do outside of a Night Sister lineup along with Night Sister Zombie. She's very tanky or very healthy, is fat, so she can stay alive a lot longer, so she's the obvious choice to pair with Night Sister Zombie in those slicker teams and such. And she can also revive anybody, and that's definitely something I think is pretty cool, and definitely merits pushing her up a little bit towards mid of A tier. Next up, we got Plo Koon. And Plo Koon gets himself up to the C tier just because of how great his ship is. It's a must on that Galactic Republic team. Great first reinforcement, cleanses the team, grants turn meter, grants protection up. Just awesome ship. On land, he's not great. He does have the tank tag, which can make for some useful stuff. He can be that kind of sacrificial lamb in a JMK mirror because he's going to get insta-killed first by Cat. He grants turn meter up on ground too, so that's pretty good. So C tier for him. Next up, we got Poggle. Poggle's kind of the odd one out among Geonosians. He doesn't have a ship, and even though GBA doesn't have a ship, GBA is the key to that team. He's the leader and is basically a double character. But Poggle does some cool stuff. Offense up, cleanse, ability block on the basics. So mid C tier for him. Next up, we got Princess Leia. And Princess Leia doesn't really do that much. She used to be kind of good when she came out, as far as I have heard. She can hit a few times, so she has some decent damage potential. She grants some buffs to her team, goes into stealth, so bottom D tier. Honestly, she probably should be above Lando, so it's probably my bad. But Lando has an AoE, so I don't know. Neither of them are good. Next up, we got Qui-Gon Jinn, my favorite Jedi, and he is top of the A tier. If this was a Grand Arena only list, he'd definitely be S tier, but since he's limited to Grand Arena in his viability, he's A tier. Well, actually, I even use him in Territory Wars with Kitty Mundi, and I can actually win some games with him. They still do a lot of damage. But he's an awesome leader, just ramps up the damage of Galactic Republic Jedi to an insane degree, extra speed, foresight constantly, full healing when he dies. It's just awesome. He's one of the best. He was probably the first WoW Omicron that came out in my eyes. So, great character. I'm glad they reworked him to look like Liam Neeson because that guy's pretty awesome as an actor. So yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn, high A tier. Next up, we got Resistance Pilot, and he's a pilot, so he gets out of F tier. He's in D tier. He's one of only 4 Resistance ships. Yeah, so, I mean, that's pretty sad for a fleet that they only have 4 ships, but because he's only one of 4 in a fleet, he gets himself into D tier. Then we got Resistance Trooper, and he gets up higher because he's a pilot of a better ship, the Resistance Tank, along with Rose Tico, and that can make that fleet actually worth something once in a while, so low C tier for him. He's also better on ground because he can work with exposes. He also makes me think of Urzatron. He called it Major Tom. I love that little video he had where everyone, all the kids were idolizing Major Tom instead of Ray or Finn or anyone like that. So low C tier for him. Next up, we got Royal Guard, and I think Royal Guard is pretty high A tier. After his rework, he's an awesome tank. Pretty much exclusively goes with Lord Vader, but you could put him with other Empire characters. He's got a passive taunt, and now he has an active taunt that he can do on his own. And he is just so thick right now because of his unique taking Lord Vader's health pool. He does stun on the base, he grants that retribution, so it's pretty decent stuff. I may have ranked him too high. You could tell me if I did or not, but I really love this guy. Next up, we got Savage Opress, and Savage Opress gets himself into the A tier only because of his Omicron. Without it, he'd be probably C tier at best. But he's kind of a monster right now in Grand Arena, and he's got Wampa-esque qualities where he could kind of solo a team, but unlike Wampa, he can go in his own team or in another team under a leader and add a lot more viability. I got a lot of holds in 5v5 with him under trail lead with the rest of the trio, and then another character which I'm blanking on right, Count Dooku. So he's definitely solid. He had one of the most broken mechanics early game. The fact that he could do massive damage, like 100,000 damage against anyone when they were under 50% health was crazy, because people at that time would do in the hundreds of damage, not in the tens of thousands or even thousands very often. So he was pretty broken at the beginning if you could get the right circumstances to happen. Next up, we got Snowtrooper, and Snowtrooper, you know, low C tier. He's decent, I guess. He doesn't really go in a standard IT lineup anymore, but he can be used with Iden, and he gives, I think, turn meter or something when people die. I don't use him, I don't have him geared up, but he's pretty decent, so C tier for him. And we are getting closer to the end of the list. Our next character is Stormtrooper, who is high C tier for me. You know, he's a decent tank. He goes with Iden right now, but he could also go with a Lord Vader if you're just going for tanks. I know I had a hard time against a Lord Vader team with him because he grants all the extra defense, and he is pretty tanky to get through. So high C tier for him. Yeah, he's got a pretty bad Zeta. I forget exactly what it does, but it like gives him extra offense, which is kind of useless. Next we got Stormtrooper Han, and he's mid C tier for me. You know, he's got a decent lead. He grants turn meter out to everyone when he's taking hits. So he is a good theory crafting candidate. And I think Clash used to do a lot with him. So he's a pretty good scoundrel leader, just random leader. You can use him a lot of ways. He's definitely not invalid in the game right now. Next up we got Talia. Talia, she's not good, but she helps people beat Challenge Tier 2 of Secrets and Shadows, so she escapes the F tier and makes it to D tier. Next we got Tebow. This is probably ranking him too high, I don't know. He's low D tier. He doesn't even help you unlock C-3PO, or most people don't use him, but at one point he was great in the pit raid, so I am paying homage to him for his beginning of the game exploits and giving him the D tier. Right now we only have bad characters left. We have 3 characters left, and which one is going to be the worst? Tusken Raider, he is next up on our list. He escapes obscurity in the F tier because of his Omicron. Otherwise he'd definitely be smack dab in the middle of F tier. But it's only for 3v3, and you know, I don't see myself ever applying it unless they get more Tuskens or get some crazy reworks. D tier for him, but you know, better than it could be. Next up we got Ugnaught. Is he the worst character in the game from the beginning of the game and just overall in general? Yes, he is. He is the worst character in the game, in my opinion. He's not even useful for crafting relic material anymore because you can craft them in the scavenger alone. And to me, he's the worst character because he has no tags. He is just light side support. And his abilities are kind of, they're laughably specific and limited. Like his unique is he gains 9% evasion for each droid enemy. Okay, like, And then his special is deals special damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to stun droids. Only droids for 1 turn. Basic, deal damage. This does 100% damage more to droids and inflicts defense down on droids for 2 turns. So he's all about droids. There's no droid team he'd be helpful in taking on anyway, but he's just so bad. He is quite wonderfully bad. And the last character is, or however you say it, he's bad. You know, he's a Tusken. Tuskens are not good. He's the leader, so I don't know, that's something. Low F tier. Again, it's hard for me to differentiate between how bad all these characters are, but you know, I don't have much to say to help out at all. So that's it. That's the whole list. You know, we got a good amount of S tier, A tier, B tier characters from day one, thanks to a lot of reworks, which is great. I'm glad that they have lifted some of these classic characters out of obscurity, especially Darth Vader, Jedi Anakin, Mace Windu. These are characters that should be some of the best in Galaxy of Heroes. And even though these are ranked in relation to marquees, Darth Vader would probably be ranked pretty high, even among Journey Guide characters or Conquest characters or whatever. So just a lot of good stuff here left over from the beginning of the game. So yeah, I really enjoyed making this video. Let me know what you think. And if you like the video, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. And let me know what other rankings you'd like to see. Thanks, and have a good one.